I can't tell you how happy and proud I am to have with us today one of the most enjoyable and professional producers I have ever had the opportunity to work with, Mr. Paul Ritchie.
Me too.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Paul has worked on a number of successful independent films with a variety of different genres, starting from comedy that we all loved, Bend It Like Beckham, to horror, The Descent. He has won numerous awards, from BAFTA to an Oscar for the Slumdog Millionaire that I believe I watched at least 20 times. There's many other, like Brighton Rock and Woman in Black, Nowhere Boy, so many different projects. He never stops working. And both Pele and I had the opportunity to work with him in Croatia, Pele on more than one project, me on McMafia, a project that actually won an Emmy Award as well. Good morning, Paul, and welcome to Croatia again, even virtually.
Good morning. Good morning, Mia. Good morning, Pele.
Good morning, Paul.
I've not seen Pele looking this smart for a long time.
Right? See,
Yeah.
I made him look nice. He even
It's good.
today.
I switched my North Face jacket for this.
Yes, and your flip-flops. You're probably still wearing your flip-flops.
I'm wearing my flip-flops and my shorts. You can't see.
That's why we have, the table here, so he's safe. One of the first questions that, of course, comes to mind is that you've chosen now Croatia for more than one of your projects. Why is that, and how did you actually come to come here for the first time, and then what made you come back?
I think the first thing for us, as always, is the range of and depth that the country has to offer, from the coast to the mountains to the cities. So it presents us a huge opportunity to create many landscapes within the same environment. So, for example, the very first show we brought here was the Diana with Oliver Hirschbiegel. Was the very first show I worked on, and we needed the Italian coast. We needed some Paris. We needed her trips to Australia randomly, and Croatia managed to tick all of those boxes, because in the independent film, it's very expensive to move crew, equipment, actors. And it's time to move those things. Whereas in Croatia, you can pop along to these places in 2 or 3 hours. So it presents a huge amount of opportunities for us to create many environments in a very short space of time, and time is money.
And how important is it that you have a co-production partner in the country that you actually are shooting? And is this something that you consider somebody you never change, somebody that you always, it works and it's great cooperation, and you always come back to the same person?
Well, the business is our business. This film and entertainment business is based on relationships, and when you find a good relationship, you do everything you can to keep it. Whether you're a director working with a DOP, whether you're a financier that always finances the same producers and directors' movies, or whether it's us using the same co-producer in India or Croatia or Russia or wherever you go, you always, the relationship is important, because the business that we're in it's variable. Things can change very quickly, and it can go from great to terrible, and you want people in your corner if it's terrible. You want people there that you can turn to and say, listen, I'm afraid this one's going to be a little rocky, so we're going to need your help. And that's all it is. It's a relationship issue, really, as long as it works, for sure.
It definitely is. You're completely right. In one day, you can have 3 terrible situations happen one after another. One of the projects that was, in my opinion, demanding, it was all around the region. A lot of it was shot in Croatia, but there was Serbia involved and other areas. Was actually the award-winning series McMafia. Let us play the little trailer so people can see what we have done here in this region, and then I'll ask you a quick question.
Okay.
Born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I run my own firm. I'm very happy with my life. Because of my family background, I've made it a policy not to invest in Russia.
It is embarrassing to be Russian these days, but don't ever be ashamed of who you are.
Let me guess, you're a gangster.
Close.
Banker?
When I met your father, he was a businessman. And in his business, there was a lot of money. So it was very dangerous. In Russia, they call everyone a gangster.
Your uncle promised I could use your fund to move my money around.
Why would I say yes to you? I'm not a money launderer.
I thought maybe you were tired of being the English gentleman.
Neither you nor your family are safe.
What does it take to corrupt you?
Are you head of the family now?
How do I protect them?
By deception, we will do war.
I'm a banker, not a gangster.
These wars are fought in the boardrooms, not on the street. To protect your family, this is what you have to do.
I think there's a lot more that you're not telling me.
It's business.
He's got this beautiful smile, but underneath, do you ever know what he's thinking?
What if you get investigated?
I've done nothing wrong.
Moving money is your weapon.
Do you understand? In Moscow, they kill you! You have to be ready to give up everything.
You afraid?
All these, things and situations come back when you watch this. We actually shot all over Croatia, and I remember the first day of shooting for the first series was closing the tunnel in Rijeka. How was it actually shooting this project, and what do you remember as things that are, important to say? And were there any situations, like you said, that were terrible, or did we actually kind of slide through that, at least, in a good grade of 4?
Well, I mean, first of all, Mia, let me say, there's not been really too many terrible situations in Croatia for us. I mean, in terms of, the terrible situations are often maybe Cairo, maybe Dubai, maybe India. Sometimes we have troubles there. But here,
that's what I wanted to hear. That's why I keep asking you that. So that means we're good.
So here it was good. Here it was terrific. Croatia, as when I say here, it was Croatia. It was terrific. Interestingly, the key for us at the very beginning when I first spoke to Igor Nola was, the biggest headache for us on McMafia was the Tel Aviv sequence. And obviously India was going to be India. The Dubai, Arab Emirates, Qatar, wherever we ended up was going to be there. Then we had to fill in all the gaps, and the gaps were something like 14 different countries, from Czech Republic to Egypt to Moscow to all over the world. And interestingly, Split arrived for us with the pictures as this potentially would be our Tel Aviv, and that effectively from there the oak tree grew from the acorn of Split, and we were able then to build the entire show around Belgrade and Slovenia and Croatia and Zagreb and Opatija and Ravine. I mean, as you know, we went everywhere in Croatia and Serbia and Slovenia. So that's the one that triggered for us, that made McMafia possible, because Tel Aviv is not an easy place to replicate in Europe. And interestingly, Split was fantastic, and the weather helped, of course.
That's always, for me, interesting to hear when you can actually find 14 different countries in one country. That's one of the. Can we actually cite you on that and use it as our promo?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we can go 14 countries in one day. I think when Hoss, Amini, and James Watkins, when we came to Croatia, Igor took us from Zagreb to then Split to then Dubrovnik, and I think we saw pretty much all 14 of those countries in that journey over 3 days.
One day, perfect.
Yeah.
Based on the success of the show and everything that happened, are you planning on next season?
Yes, funny enough, it's taken us a while. These things second seasons are never straightforward, not always anyway. And we went through, everybody was keen for a second season, but I think for us to arrive at scripts where Hoss and James Watkins were in a position to go, these are ready, let's go. I think we've not quite got there yet, but interestingly, there's a new writer has come on board in the last couple of months, and the writing process is beginning on McMafia season 2. So that's exciting. We're very excited. Yeah,
that's great. I'm assuming you come into Croatia.
Yes, I mean, again, like all these things, it's never 100%. Nothing is ever 100%.
Yeah,
but I think we all, as I'm sure you know, we've all had a good time shooting in Croatia. So there's no reason for us not to come, and unless it's set in somewhere that of these 14 countries that Croatia can't present, which we haven't found yet. But you never know.
We'll make it happen.
Yes, we will.
Your latest project, actually, that was shot in Croatia last year, is again a big movie, now a series. And it was actually the first thing that was shot in Croatia during the pandemic. In that project, there were so many things that actually happened in Zagreb that I'm very proud of that was actually possible to do. And I hope we have helped Pella as well to make it happen with the city. One of the things was the here he comes. He can.
Here he is.
Be here.
You're talking about me.
Yeah, I'm talking about you. One of the things that I love is that we actually created a Checkpoint Charlie in Berlin, in the middle of the center of Zagreb. Tell us a little bit about the project.
Well, I mean, obviously, a huge round of applause to Pele. Of course, he just comes in for all of the glory at the last minute. But look, it's a huge feat of politics and negotiations and relationships and ability to get a city to agree to close down a major artery in Zagreb, right? Which is what that road, that crossroad is. And I all we can say from James Watkins and all the team on Ipcris was hats off to Pele and Igor for being able to pull that off, because that is not easy. I mean, it's really, we know that obviously coming from London, we just wouldn't be able to do that. And that is another reason for us to constantly want to come back to Croatia, where we can push the boundaries. And, look, in the world that we live in, politics is always very difficult for us to deal with. Politicians, it's a headache for them to have to deal with their citizens to say, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience, but it's for a nice TV show that you might enjoy on your television screens, which, your lady who's trying to go to the supermarket and buy a loaf of bread every morning, she's not that interested at that very moment when a policeman or a very charming location manager dressed in Havaianas says to her, I'm sorry, the road is closed. So it takes a lot. But I hope, that with all these things, it highlights to politicians, to people, that it's a great business for the community, for the world, and people love in whatever times of pandemics, times of crisis. You need to switch off from your own head and watch something amazing, and that's effectively, hopefully, what we do for a living.
I remember the first meeting we had, and when Pella came to the office and he said, this is a great project. And I'm like, okay, cut the first 2 minutes. Tell me what's the problem. He goes, it's not a problem. It's a great scene. You have to make it happen.
We just had a couple of situations.
We're just building Berlin in the middle of Zagreb. And I said, okay, I love it. So I went to the meeting with the people in the city. And I started not with 2 minutes introduction. I started with 7 minutes introduction to get to that point. And I have to say thank you to them as well, because in these 2-3 years that we've been working with them, they do understand that this is a business. They do understand how much this brings to the city, even in the shooting period and afterwards as well. So the first answer I received was, we'll make it happen. And I was so happy that they had that click. And it wasn't, but we can. This is a street that, everybody goes through that street at that time. And yes, maybe if you do it at night, we'll make it happen, but I don't know. No, the answer was immediately, fine, we'll make it happen. So it's great that we got to that point.
just our department did an amazing job. You just have to shout out to James Price and Matzi, who did they did really the workload, and of course the help from them, and the support from the city came in, was very, very helpful. So yeah.
And it was brilliant. And there were workarounds to just move that strange wall, the polystyrene that could just shift out of the way and move backwards in again. And it was it was a very impressive sequence, and it looked amazing on the night.
That wouldn't be possible without Igor Nola's instructions for the.
Of course, all roads we know lead to Mr. Nola.
That helped in the negotiation when I said, it won't be there forever. It will be moved.
Yeah.
But that again was the first project that happened here with all these restrictions, and I just want to kind of know. And I mean, I believe everything was great, but how much did the Croatian Audiovisual Center and the government actually understand and help you and know about importance of the project?
Well, I mean, again, that effectively is vital because, no one really knew who we were and what we were doing. And we had this rather small issue of the UK had just left the European glorious freedom of movement that us Brits have been used to for 40 years. Had vanished. So inevitably the problems of travel and visas and COVID restrictions, European COVID restrictions were different to the UK. And obviously, that had all its other issues, that we were ahead of the vaccine program. Insurance for us was tricky going to Europe when we're only covered in the UK. It was a challenge. And, I can only say a huge thanks to Igor and the Croatian Audiovisual Center in terms of the way that everybody accepted the philosophy that we were going to work in, i.e. we chartered a Croatian Airlines plane, which only had R on it. Therefore, we could come in a bubble, stay in a bubble. And I think testament to we had not one single positive case throughout on our side, anyone at all. So I think it worked. Great.
When can we see something? I want to see this checkpoint, Charlie, so bad.
Yeah, I think I suspect we've locked on eps 1, 2, 3, and 4. Episode 5 we're going to lock this week. Episode 6 we're going to lock in the next week and a half. And then I know that ITV and AMC, you saw that trailer for McMafia was AMC. It's AMC again for Ipcris. So I suspect both of them will start building. In fact, we know they're building their marketing
promo
pretty much over the next sort of month or so. In fact, for us here, the talk is possibly February for Ipcris to go out on general release. And I suspect, AMC will want to try and keep a similar point. So I think you'll hopefully see stuff in the next month, I would imagine. Great. It looks good. It looks really good.
Can't wait. Yeah. Moving a little bit away from this region, it's very interesting, at least to me. I mean, I've been a number of times, but you love to shoot in India. Going back to Bend It Like Beckham, there's always some kind of not always, but there's always a little hint of that country or that culture. What is it that attracted you so much to that place, and can Croatia learn something from that?
Well, I mean, I don't know what it is about for me personally. I just know that, I'm sure you have it in Croatia as we have here, but we love nothing better than a cross-cultural. We like to laugh at another culture and we like them to laugh at ours. Whether it's the British having tea in the Raj in the middle of nowhere in all of our finery and our parasols, or it's the Indians and their madness and their dancing and their craziness. I guess it's the fact that we love to see other cultures, and we love to see how other cultures come into our own. And I'm sure you have that in Croatia, whether you're mixing with Slovenians or whether you're mixing with Serbians. There's always a frisson. Sometimes it's humorous, sometimes it's, I don't know, less humorous, but it's always fun. In the end, there's always the joke about, you crazy Croatians or you crazy Serbians or you crazy Slovenians or whatever it is. And we have a similar thing here with, the Indians and the UK. We obviously have a huge history going back hundreds of years with the Raj. But it's for me, Benny Beckham was, a great experience. And when Slumdog landed on our desk, I'd never even been to India in my entire life. But I was fortunate that Deepak, who's the producer on Benny Beckham, said to me, he had me taken care of. He had a guy in India called Pravesh Sani, and you need to talk to him. And Pravesh was, it was just one of the best experiences ever. So I have a Igor in India called Pravesh, who I think is coming to Croatia, funnily enough, next year.
Great.
Yeah. So
Great.
Igor's standing by to receive him.
So do you think from all the countries that you actually shot and did different projects, is there anything that Croatia can learn to even, make us better?
I mean, the simple truth of it is a studio. A studio system makes everything so much easier because, like I said at the very beginning of this talk, you have so many different elements on a movie, on a TV series, on a whatever. You need to be able to shoot. The next day, weather cover, you want to go inside and shoot a set. You want to go out and shoot crazy snowfall or whatever. You've got to have a studio, or at least a complex of studios, 2 or 3 or 4 good-sized studios, because that will inevitably give producers much more flexibility to bring longer productions into Croatia and stay for longer and spend more, because that's the whole point. And I think inevitably you've got the Czech Republic and you've got Romania and Hungary and Bulgaria, all, and Serbia as well, to be fair, all who have studios. But I think a studio is a key element of the game to have within your Croatian artillery or armory, as it were. So I think a studio would be great. I mean, the tax credit is wonderful, and the tax credits are almost a standard thing now. There used to be, look, we would make a big decision to go to Hungary over Croatia because of the tax credit, and so that inevitably plays a big part. I'm still on with Igor about this above the line tax credit. I still don't understand why no one in Europe has an above the line. I know it looks scary to pay Tom Cruise 20% of his fees from the Croatian taxpayer, but Tom Cruise brings $100 million worth of production to your country. So you sort of think it can't be that bad to have an above the line. And I know Igor's working on it with the state. So we'll see.
I think it goes back to the fact that throughout the whole Europe, this was always considered another form of art in the Ministry of Culture. So that goes into, it's not considered a business where that would be normal to pay somebody's fee. It's not like in the United States where it's mostly privately funded, banks funded. It's all about the government. So it's a little bit hard to have that, justification that, it's 20%, but it's his fee, and his fee is 100 million. So that it just doesn't.
That's 20 million.
At this point.
Absolutely. It is. You're absolutely right. But I guess the example is here in the UK where it works very, very well. And it's worth 12 billion. It's the fastest growing industry in the country, is the creative arts. It is truly off the scale. I mean, obviously we have advantages in that our English speaking for the Americans, but at the same time, the Americans are desperately looking for other places to film because we're saturated. They want to go. Hungary's too busy. Czech Republic's busy. So, anywhere else that can soak it up, and we'll start bringing in huge amounts of business and economy and, life, culture, everything. It's a big business.
Can you tell us a little bit about your next projects? What do you have on the table? Of course, not the details, but and what kind of projects could possibly land in Croatia, except the second season of McMafia, or
second season of McMafia
somewhere else? We're just curious, of course.
Well, interestingly, so the second season of McMafia is now underway in a more serious way than we've known it for a while. Ipcris Files season 2, everybody's very keen to start the process on that and get the scripts written. So we're hopeful, but until it goes, we don't know. So there's Ipcris Files, which is on the horizon, number 2, because it's a huge group of books. Len Dayton has written a whole plethora of these Harry Palmer books. And then right now I'm in the middle of one of the execs who's on the Mafia season, Liz Kilgariff and Craig at Firebird. They have a project called The Wilderness, and Wilderness is what I'm working on at the moment, but it's unfortunately set in the Grand Canyon and New York, which I think is the only place I can't quite fit into Croatia.
Not
Whoa, hold on. There is that.
Pele
Yes, there is that place.
We'll...
Pele saying, listen, let me take a crack at it, boss.
Let me take it from here, Paul.
I got you back. We've got New York, we've got the Grand Canyon.
But that's what you have computers for, right, Pele?
Yeah. CG, yeah,
beautiful
of course.
setting we used for McMafia, the Zrmanja Canyon. We just
Zrmanja Canyon. I was just going to say that's potentially close.
Right,
it's very close. Yeah. So yeah, that's the theory.
Have you maybe changed the way you look at a country now with all these COVID restrictions and traveling? Have you started doing virtual scouting for certain things?
We have, but I think, again, I just was in Canada only 2 weeks ago. We went to see it because, the snow comes in a couple of weeks and we wanted to get in before the snow stopped us from getting there until February. And we're in a people business. What we do for a living is all about people. And unless you can't tell on a Zoom call in a room, you can't read people's body language. You can't, because of language differences or cultural differences. Unfortunately, it's one of those businesses we do a lot more Zoom and we do a lot more virtual and scouting. But until you're walking around a woods in the middle of, the British Columbia or Alberta in Canada, you don't quite get the same, right, this is how we shoot it. And a Pele will take a picture and, we want to know what's to the right of the picture or behind the picture or to the left of the picture, which Pele does. But until you stand there, it's hard to visualize. And we're in a visual business. We are visual interpreters of a story. So yeah, we're still traveling and we're still trying to deal with COVID restrictions. So it doesn't stop us, I don't think.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that was great, actually. Even nobody knew when this was going to end. Nobody knew what was happening, but everybody started looking for different ways to continue shooting and continue working, and there was no stopping anybody. That's what's, to me, amazing about this industry when it comes to animation and documentaries and series. It's great that this is how it is. A lot of different jobs pretty much stopped. So it's great to see that the projects were actually created and even shot during the last 2 years with, being creative.
Well, we have this expression, the show must go on, Mia.
Yeah,
you have that. It's a theater expression, the show must go on. So I think for ever since any of us have ever been in this business, the show must go on. No matter what happens, we've got to get there, who've paid good money to see this stuff, and you've got to keep going.
Yep. We started receiving a couple of questions from the audience. So the first question is that, have you maybe noticed the
progress?
My mind stopped. Have you seen any progress when it comes to crews in different projects now over the years?
I mean, like everything, the busier the business is, the more people will come into it. If there's enough work for people, more people will come, and more people that come, the better they'll get because there's more work, and the more work there is, the more experience you have. So, yeah, I mean, Croatian crews for us are some of the best we've ever worked with in the world. I mean, and that's just not me. That's James Watkins, and that's many people. It's and look, you guys know as much as I do. You have big shows coming there, whether it's Succession, Game of Thrones, McMafia. They're terrific crew in Croatia. So yeah, I think we have noticed. Amazing art department, fantastic. I mean, locations is obviously always a problem for us, but art department, it's good. Costume, makeup.
Yeah, one of the things that we know is that we don't have enough crews at this point. That's one other question. One other problem we're actually working on. especially when it comes to makeup and costumes and just what you just mentioned. The ladies are even having their promotional talks today. They all opened some kind of schools to educate the new crews. So hopefully in a couple of years, we can double or triple, the groups that can go around with everybody that comes in, which will be a great thing, because now we keep getting information that, there is not enough people, especially if there's a lot of commercials shooting at the same time. And of course, all the regular programs for the Croatian TV, and then you get to a point where there is not enough people. The Zagreb Film Office actually started working with one of the private schools to train people as well, the University of Vern, who we want to say hi as well. So there's other schools and universities opening up just because of that, and that's another great thing that is happening in Croatia. So hopefully we will actually have more people when it comes in the next couple of years.
Great, really good.
Okay, we have another question. When it comes to the full world, what was your personal favorite project?
In the whole world of all the films and TV, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to pick it. It's like children. You don't have. It's hard to pick a favorite. I mean, we have this saying that well, come on. You sometimes have a really good experience on a movie, like a wonderful time, everybody gels, and the movie unfortunately doesn't quite work. But I would say On Bend It Like Beckham was one of the most enjoyable filming experiences I'd ever had, with a great crew, great cast. It was just a really lovely experience, and it popped and became a hit. Those are the sort of the absolute pinnacles. And I got to be honest, I think McMafia is probably up there alongside. I mean, it was way more stressful, way more complicated, but we had a great team. My line producer Kate Glover is truly amazing, and Pele and the gang and all the production team we had were incredible. So I think McMafia is up there. Ipcris I enjoyed as much, but it was on a very different. The COVID really changed the kind of enjoyment levels for us in terms of the freedom we're used to. And I don't think that just is us. I think that's the whole world. It has really been a bit of a downer in terms of how we move about and the stresses it causes with the risk that we as producers take by putting our crew and our cast out there in the world with this disease, which is horrendous. So I think it was a good fun, and McMafia inevitably was great fun. Great, amazing cast, truly amazing cast.
The next question is, in your opinion, how much education is actually needed for a job of a producer? Because we see in the film industry, we see a lot of people that come from different industries and end up in film or television. For a long time, especially in Croatia, there was no school to be a producer. So there's a question that, do you think the education is needed, or is it mostly about experience?
It's the beauty of this business is you can come at it from anywhere. I did not go to university. I left school as soon as I could at 17, and I had a weekend job in a shirt shop in Jermyn Street in London, selling fancy shirts to very wealthy people. That's where I started. And I then got offered a job in a small production company, commercials company, and I went there when I was 17, and I stayed there for 6 months, and then I went out into the world and I was freelance from the age of 17. So I have no formal education. The business has educated me and got me to here. But, that's not to say you can't go to university and study English literature or bioscience or maths and then come into the business with, I want to develop, biomass productions or whatever. You can come from any angle. You can come from AD. You could become a location manager. Could become a producer if you have the desire and the wish to do it. Then from anywhere. Development is obviously a key part of a producer's job. So understanding, story and reading scripts and books and finding articles in newspapers that could potentially be worthwhile projects, you can come from anywhere. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules. Inevitably, it really is about which direction you want to come to producing from. You can come from university, you can have a master's degree, you can be professor of English at Oxford and become a producer. It's really about knowing how to balance the finance, the logistics, the crew, the director, the writers, the actors. That's effectively, those are the tricky bits. But there are other people that can handle that stuff. So it doesn't have to be one person.
Definitely. That person only needs to understand the whole process.
Yeah.
Let's see if we have another question. Yes. What was your, let's say, well, not favorite, but the best actor you worked with when it comes to, understanding, being normal on the set? When we mentioned Tom Cruise, everybody knows that, he wants to do everything on his own, and then sometimes he breaks his leg, and, different stories. So when it comes to actors, what was your best experience?
We've all worked with many actors. It's hard to pin one down where you go, oh, that person was amazing. I have to say James Norton was a fantastic actor. From my point of view, it's a truly professional, brilliant, engaging, humorous, polite human being. Just was a pleasure to deal with. But I also enjoyed working with Samuel L. Jackson, who had very strong opinions on what he wanted to do and how he works. And there's no one more successful in Hollywood than him. So, there's a whole, Diane Keaton was amazing to work with and was kind of kooky and crazy and wonderful. And, they are all very, very different, and they all have their different processes, and they all have their different temperaments. So there's no one that stands out for me. I don't think. I can't think of one.
When it comes to another question, now that you mentioned Samuel L. Jackson, came right up. Shooting Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard in Zagreb, we had some very interesting scenes with helicopters landing in the middle of the city and a lot of different things. Again, Pele.
Again.
How was that experience? And, everybody here was happy that, 3 big Hollywood actors are actually in town. And they were, as much as we saw from newspapers and everything, they were very good with people stopping them on the street and going to restaurants and exploring the city. How was that whole project? And was there any glitches there?
It's a huge movie, and it comes with a huge amount of problems because, it exponentially it's an independently financed Hollywood movie. Now that comes at a price. The studio will always paper over the cracks. The money helps to just make it much easier. Whereas for us, with Millennium, who are out there, one of the very few independents left, it causes us, from a production point of view, a lot of problems in terms of moving of people. And again, we had way more issues on that, and closing bridges and closing roads and blowing up stuff and destroying half of ravine at the same time. That created all the kind of issues for us. And the weather was, we decided because of availabilities of these Goliath stars, we had to shoot this in March and April. So that, added its own headaches, because Croatia, the beauty for us of Croatia is from about May onwards, you have pretty good weather. So that's something we're not used to here in the UK.
Okay, and I think this is the last question. How difficult and demanding was it to work in India when you were shooting Slumdog Millionaire? We do know that they're crazy, and it's really, for me, I was there around 5, 6, 7 times. It's a different planet. It's really not. It's not Earth. It's like you actually go somewhere else.
I think, that's the biggest challenge is we're very used as filmmakers, we're very used to wherever you come from, because you do it mostly at the beginning of your career, you stay in the same place. You don't travel because you're young and you're inexperienced. So you just work in the same way all the time. The minute then you get to a certain position in this business, you move to a Croatia or you move to an India. And it is different. It's just a slightly different way that people work. And some people adapt to it and some people don't. And India, I always say to crew that are coming, it's like the Ganges, the huge river in India. If you swim against the Ganges, you will just either stay still, eventually get exhausted, and you'll drown. And you'll end up spluttering down on the side of the banks. If you swim with the Ganges, you'll have an enjoyable process. You'll see more of the country. You'll not exhaust yourself, and you can try and drift left and right as you're swimming with the Ganges. And India for me is like that. You have to sort of swim with it, otherwise you implode. If you want to try and go to India and change India, then you're banging your head against a brick wall. And so the challenge for us was, wow, this is completely different. And we had an amazing Igor Nola in Pravesh and Tabrez, who helped us as Westerners understand the culture and understand the way the Indians worked, and it worked. So challenges, it's unbelievable, but they are an amazing people. I mean, an incredible nation and culture, and I love it, as you can tell. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I do too.
It's good.
Split.
Well, it's very similar. Yes, very, very similar.
Well, Paul, unfortunately, our time is up.
Excellent.
I think we could talk for another 3 hours. Thank you very much for taking your time and joining us. I hope maybe next year we can finally have this conference in person. And
sure.
You will be here for some reason, and then you can join us.
If not, for the reason of being the next cultural attaché in Croatia.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm waiting for the call. We've got a few things going on, but yes, I'm there.
Okay.
Great. Again, thank you very much, and wishing you all the success on the next projects, and can't wait to see the February when it starts.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.